to connect, and we will continue. Hello, Dr. Rice. How are you?
Do we make it? Do we make
Yes. Yes.
it? Good. Good. Love it.
So, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic now that Facebook's actually letting us do
Yeah, I know. I
this.
don't know what that was about. And not letting my friends get on my interview. What is that all about?
Welcome to Facebook, baby.
Right, right. That you live and you learn. What can you do?
That's right.
You live and you
That's
learn.
right.
Yes, I for those of you watching that are logging on, and I gave a brief intro earlier about who he is. He is Dr. Kyle Rice, and he is a physical therapist who helps physical therapy students pass their board exam. Now he's willing to come on and give us some advice as far as testing strategies, talk about testing anxiety, and all that good stuff that can help us with the GRE and even NBCOT if you
For
are
sure.
a current student. So yeah, that's who he is. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, no, like you said, physical therapist, and I've actually been practicing in helping people to pass their boards since I graduated back in 2013. So
Wow.
I've gotten quite a bit of experience with, standardized exams now and learning the ways of standardized exams. And it's so funny, with all the stuff that you've already mentioned, the closeness, because you said that, okay, I did well on the GRE, after several tries, and then my first time I took the NPTE, I got a perfect score on that. And you would think that, okay, that's for the GRE or that's for the NPTE, but actually, I found that a lot of the strategies that I use with students are applicable across the board, whether you're a law student, whether you're in engineering or architecture, whether you're OT, SLP, it doesn't matter. A lot of these same techniques and strategies are applicable to any standardized exam. So it's really great.
That is awesome. So I think everybody's wondering, how did you get a perfect score on your board exam to become a physical
Man,
therapist? And how can we learn from you so we can, conquer our NBCOTs and our GREs?
for sure. So, it's really interesting my past because a lot of people see me now and they see this refined product like, oh, he got a perfect score. Like, this crazy. How'd you do that? I actually went through about 9 years of constantly being in the bottom 10% of all test
Wow.
takers. I come from Florida, so we have this thing called the FCAT, the ACTs, and the SATs, which I'm sure you know about. The MCAT, the GRE, and now the MPTE. It's like these are all exams that I had struggled with, was in the bottom 10% of all of them. But then when I got into PT school, I knew that this was pretty much like the end. Either I passed the MPTE or I pretty much was just never going to make it as some type of healthcare professional. I just never was going to make it. And so really I pulled out all the stops in PT school. I actually studied, I would say for a good 3 months, day in, day out, just learning what standardized exams were, why they made them, how many answers they gave, and why they chose that amount of answers, how they develop questions. I learned everything that you could possibly learn about standardized exams in conjunction with my PT, knowledge and stuff. And then I developed this thing called my MPTE preparation plan. All right, for the licensure exam, and I put 14 months of just dedicated work
Wow.
to getting that thing. Oh man, like day in day out, and just got to the point where I was ready to go into that exam, not with the mentality of, oh, this is a pass or fail, but I was going into the exam with the mentality of I am the answer key. Like I have all of the right answers. Instead of going into it like, oh, I hope I pass this time. I hope I get it this time. No, that wasn't my mindset at all.
It has to start there for sure. Because I mean, and I tell my students that are on the group all the time that, if you don't believe in yourself, that you can get into OT school, then how are you going to convince the board exam? I mean, the admissions board that you deserve that slot? How are you going to convince
Truth.
yourself that you can pass that exam? And it's all such a mind game. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And so I have a question. You said that you were like studying how questions were developed and just different, you know, like what type of what type of strategies would you notice have you noticed benefit students the most during standardized testing?
I really would say that it starts from, whether you're taking the GRE or you're taking, the OT licensure exam, it really stems from how you're preparing for it to begin with. Because a lot of us are getting so much information if we're in undergrad or we're in OT school or whatever, we're getting a lot of information. And so what do we tend to do? We tend to memorize it, right? Because there's not enough time to sit there and try to like absorb everything. So here's the deal. The one thing that I changed that really helped me significantly with the exam was before I left a topic, before I left studying a topic, I would always ask myself like that why question. I wouldn't just memorize it and move on to the next. I would always make sure I asked the why question before I left. So for instance, it's like, oh, if you're learning about an intervention, right? Specifically for OTs, for a specific pathology. It's like instead of you just being like, okay, that intervention's for that, okay, moving on, it's like, no, no, no. Let me ask why questions. Why this intervention instead of this? Why do this instead of that? Same thing with GRE. Why do the problem this specific way instead of doing it this way? And by you asking those why questions, you're gaining a better understanding that you can apply to the exam. But here, and y'all can tell me this, put a like, put a love down on the video if you agree with this, that for a lot of questions, you come down to two final answers,
Right.
right? Two answers, and you're kind of like, oh man, they're both good. I don't know which one, right? A lot of times, the reason why you can't select one is because you don't understand the whys behind it. Like, why is it this one over that? So you didn't study that way. And that's what sets you up for success on an exam like the GRE or the OT licensure, for
It's
sure.
very true. I mean, because if you understand, you need to know which one is better than the other. And uh,
For sure.
I can tell you all who are watching that are pre-OTs and even OT students, they drill into you. They'll give you two answers and they explain which one is better than the other. Both of them are correct. You'll get two
Right.
answers and interventions that are correct, but you need to think about why, as an OT, this one's better than the other. And in terms of GRE, you need to think about why is maybe this vocabulary word a better fit than this vocabulary word. So
For sure.
that's awesome advice right there.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I think that's the foundation because a lot of times we try to get like little tips and tricks to use on the exam.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like if your foundation is very shaky, then those strategies are only going to help you so much. You have to have a pretty solid foundation. So let me talk to the people that are studying for the GRE. If you're looking at the quantitative component, you're looking at the mathematical stuff. If you don't have a good foundation for your algebra or trig or geometry or anything, if you don't have a very solid foundation, when you go to answer those questions, you'll see that a lot of times you're kind of like, oh, they asked it this kind of way and I have no idea like how to answer this one. That's because your foundation is shaky and you don't really have a good solid foundation. And that applies again to OTs as well. How solid are you on the foundational component and that ability to apply it to the exam? For sure.
That is awesome. Um, and guys, for those of you watching, please also, if you guys have any questions, put them in the comment section. That's why he's on here as well. Take advantage of the fact that you're watching live. There's a few of you on already. So take advantage. He'll answer the questions that you have to the best of his ability. So
Mm-hmm.
please do so if you're on. Um,
Yeah.
and all that aside, I know personally one of the things that I have seen one of my closest friends struggle with was testing anxiety. And
Yeah.
when it came to my turn to take the exam, she took her GRE, I remember, as a student, like, prior to me, and she just gave me all sorts of even more anxiety that I think affected
For
my
sure.
score. How do you think is one of the best ways, or what do you recommend to deal with testing anxiety?
All right, so I would say that there's three major things. So definitely write these down. And again, thank you for having me on, Jessica. This is an absolute pleasure to do this. Um, so number one, I would say is if you have the opportunity, which a lot of students do in college and in graduate school, there is a psychologist or some type of counselor that's on your campus that you can a lot of times see for free. All right, see for free. And I know a lot of people have like this stigma or this shame against going to see a counselor. But listen, when it comes to test anxiety, a lot of times we feel like we can do it ourselves, but we should give that to a professional and let them help us develop the strategies that work for us. Take it from me, a person who has seen a psychologist before and still sees one today. They are so valuable and they can give you a lot of different techniques that are specific to you, not just some general ones you can look up on Google. All right. So, my first one is going to be if you have access to some type of counselor, somebody who specializes in test anxiety, go out there and just pick their brain, tell them what's going on and see what strategies that they can give you that are for you, not just for everyone. All right. So that's number one. Number two, I would say is anxiety. You have to think about it. Like, where's my anxiety coming from? I will tell you 99% of the time, it's fear. All right. Anxiety is preceded by fear. But then it's like, okay, well, what do I fear then? Do you fear not getting into OT school? Do you fear not being able to become an OT and provide for your family? Like, what is it that you're truly fearing? Because a lot of times, if we don't shed light on that fear and expose it and address it, the anxiety is going to live there regardless. It's going to stay with you because behind closed doors, it's really this fear that, oh, I'm not going to be able to get money. Oh, I'm not going to be able to pay down my loans or support my family or whatever it is. We have to expose that and address it. That way you can go into the exam like feeling relieved, like a weight's off your shoulders. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say is like number two. It's really important to identify the fear and address it.
Mm.
Last but not least, I would say is my favorite, baby. My favorite. All right. For test anxiety, it's your entourage.
Mm.
All right. Okay. Okay. So it's your entourage. It's really the five people that are around you the most during your preparation time, and especially when you're going to take the MPTE or the GRE or the OT licensure. Okay. You need to watch who's around you because just like you said, Jessica, you were speaking to someone who was already high in anxiety, right? And then so that person's anxiety started to flow over into you, and now you became even more anxious, and you didn't even realize why. You just,
Yep.
we're all creatures of habit. We all like, what's the word for that? When you have somebody that you care about or you have feelings about, what do? We kind of adopt the way that they feel. If you see a good friend of yours get hurt, what is your mood like? Is your mood like, yeah, this is great? Or are you going down to them, possibly crying with them or hurt for them or feel bad for them, whatever it is, right? Your mood goes down. So we are just a mere reflection of the people that are around us on a constant basis.
It's true.
You have to make sure that the people around you are people that are really high on confidence and have a mentality that they're going into each day to freaking dominate. So if
Mm.
you're taking the exam with friends that are taking the MPTE or the GRE or OT licensure, make sure that the people around you are confident that they're going in there to dominate the exam. That's super
I
important.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we have a member who's watching, Stace. She wants to know what's the best way to rebuild a foundation for someone with a lot of years after taking those essential maths. So she's been out of school already for a while.
Okay. And she's trying to rebuild,
Yeah, I guess a
just
foundation.
kind of go back.
What's the best way to rebuild a foundation for someone with a lot of years after taking those essential foundational maths, like
All
algebra,
right.
like you were saying?
Yeah. Gotcha. So what I would do first is you have to really plan out how you're going to lay the foundation. All right. So I'm going to relate this or make an analogy with, building like a skyscraper or a tall building. The first thing you do is you don't necessarily just start laying foundation, laying concrete and all that stuff. You don't do that. What they do months and even years before they even get started with that process is they're planning it. Am I right? They're planning what's the ground that they're going to be on and how high is the building going to be and all this different stuff. And for you, it needs to be the same exact way. Let's plan first. What's the foundation that we need to build? Don't just go from a standpoint of, oh, I just need algebra. Well, algebra is huge. Holy cow, there's so much involved with that. So much involved with all these different areas of mathematics. So what is it that you need? Can we put that down on a sheet of paper and start to figure out what is the foundation I need to lay? Because now when you can see that, oh, you know what? I just need more foundation related to these specific types of problems. Not all of algebra. Now that I really look at it, I need I need help in this specific sector of algebra. Now your options can be open because then it's like, oh, can
Knowing
I
your
just get it?
weaknesses.
That's it, baby. That's it. I mean, now you can be like, oh, well, maybe I could just hire a tutor to teach me in that area instead of, oh, I got to take this big old course that's going to teach me everything,
Right. And
you know?
okay, like, and I would like to know your opinion on this. I think it's good advice, but you're the testing guru here. So, my experience with the GRE was that it didn't seem to matter how much I practiced math. Like, my scores just stayed the same, and I was not advancing. But I saw that my strengths were definitely in the verbal, and I just saw an
Mm,
increase in my score with the taking the GRE multiple times. And I decided in my last trial of taking the GRE that not that I wasn't going to focus on the math, I was, but that I was really, really, really going to go full hard on the verbal because
nice.
I knew that that was my strength and I was going to play on my strength for the GRE.
Ooh,
Because instead of having a mediocre verbal and a mediocre to low math, I decided I was gonna like focus on the math and then really go gung ho on the verbal, put everything that I really have into that. I ended up going from like the 40th percentile to like the 85th percentile,
nice.
because
Right, right,
I
right,
ate, slept, and breathed and played on my strength. So I don't know if
right.
you what you think of that little strategy, but
That's huge.
but I mean that's what
Yeah.
personally helped me. So Stace, if you're watching and your weakness is math and you seeing that you're constantly doing better on the verbal, man, I oh my gosh, it was so like it was so dreadful. Like I'm never gonna forget. Like I would have friends, I would be speaking to them and they would say a word. I'm like, that's a GRE word. I would literally stop and I would stop the conversation. GRE word. I just
There you go.
never took my mind off of the vocab almost. It was insane. And I think that
That's
that's what
awesome.
helped me.
Boom. I like it. I love
That's
that
what I would do.
strategy. Yeah. I mean, if you have that ability to do that where it's like you can focus on that and boost your score up enough. I know some students, it's like they can't ignore a lower score on the verbal. I mean, not on the verbal, but the quantitative. So it's like they have to do something about that. So for those students who have the ability to just play on your strengths and boost that score up as much as possible, 100%, I believe that you should do that. I love that idea. That is huge. But the OT exam is the same exact way, and
Mm,
so is the MPTE, right? If you play on those strengths, you can boost those score ups high enough to where that's more than enough to help you pass. So for sure.
awesome. 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 I guess I just have one last question. What made you want to help students pass their board exams? And yeah, why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I was telling you before how grew up in Florida and we had that whole FCAT. It's like started when we were like, I don't know, elementary school, middle school with standardized exams already. So I had already started failing those when I was young. So I mean, no matter what standardized exam I was taking, it was just like a constant failure to where I was in my senior year and I had failed the ACTs twice. I failed the SATs twice. And all my friends were going to this school called University of Florida. It was a big school in Florida. And I was the only one that didn't have the scores to go to that school. Right. So I was going to be the one that's kind of getting left out. Everybody's going to the nice school. I have to go to community college. Now, there's nothing wrong with community college, but I
Nothing.
wanted to go to this major university with my friends. That was the problem. So I didn't want to go to community college. And so my scores were just not high enough. And no matter what school I selected in Florida, they all were turning me down because I didn't have the scores. Um, and one school took me in, Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, go Rattlers. They took me in, but that was a very difficult time for me. And I fell into a huge depression and just let the whole standardized exams just take over. Then just became I couldn't be anything because standardized exams were kind of like that gatekeeper keeping me away from my goals. And so I lost quite a few years, off my life, 2 years of just trying to do well on standardized exams in order to make it into graduate school. And, when I got that perfect score on the NPTE, I don't know, it's kind of like a switch kind of turned on in a way, I was like, holy cow, like this is crazy. And the switch didn't really flip until I helped my first person pass the licensure exam. Then I was like, wow, I think I have my calling right
That is
here. This
awesome.
feel this feeling that feeling I'm telling you that I had when my first student passed, there's nothing like it. And that's the moment I realized that, wow, I'm not meant to be a physical therapist. I'm meant to help people pass licensure exams.
That is amazing.
So
That is awesome.
yeah,
And that's how I feel for all of you watching. That's how I feel about helping you.
for sure.
When I hear or get an email saying that y'all got into OT school, like my heart lights up, and I'm like, I'm so
That's
excited for
awesome.
you all. Um, so yeah. And before I forget, speaking of trying to get into OT school, for those of you who have not signed up for my personal statement class tomorrow, please do so. Send me a message if you do not know what I'm talking about. We're having a personal statement class via Zoom, and I actually still have like 2 spots available on it. So yeah, and we can continue and do fill up a different class if I see that there's more interest in it. I have a few people that want my help for the personal statement. It's what's key
Yes.
to getting into OT school, along with passing the
Do it.
GRE, doing well on it, getting a high score, playing on your strengths, and surrounding yourself with the right people.
Right.
But yeah, so if sign up for the class tomorrow, if you and we'll go from there. It's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Do it. Do it for sure.
So, yep.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, great.
Alrighty, Dr. Rice. I'm hoping to see you this weekend in
I'll be
Nashville.
there, baby.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually have a business thing going, like an elite mastermind for smart success PTs. And we are
Yes.
getting together and trying to see what we can do to basically change the rehab world. So, just because also you're a student does not mean you cannot be a part of it. If you want to learn more about smart success PTs, it doesn't matter that it says PTs, it's for OTs, hence why I'm in it. And I'm hoping that y'all will jump on board and realize that there's a lot of things I need to change and that we're going to be the movers and shakers of rehab. So
That's it, baby. Yeah, love it.
so thank you again for joining us. And Dr. Kyle is in the group. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to message him. Feel free to
Please,
message me.
please.
And thank you. Thank you so much for the
Absolute
advice.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All righty. Have a great day.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.